know what, folks, we're good to go. Everything appears to be good. So thank you for joining me here tonight. As we took me about a couple minutes here to get up and going. Want to thank you for joining me here tonight on the Sedona Connection. It's now the January 30th program. So, all right, one more item here that I need to. It's a little different when I'm in a hotel room because I'm limited to my laptop, and I have to have 4 different windows, and I got to click back and forth between all of them. And when I'm home, I got these 2 really big screens, so I can have them all open at the same time. But thanks for joining me here tonight, and thank you, everybody, for an absolutely wonderful program last week. Your comments were just absolutely outstanding. I really appreciate it. And also, I just want to make a couple announcements here. Yes, I am in Santa Ana now because I've been here. I came here early to meet with some folks on some other business meeting issues. And yes, we do have a workshop here Saturday in Santa Ana. And folks, I got notified basically by the hotel today. I'm full. We don't have any more room for any more people unless you want to be put on a standby list. And you could come in, and then if there are no-shows that don't show, you could fill those seats. And there's usually always maybe at least 5 to 10 no-shows. But I just want to be safe for everybody and notice the fact that that we're basically on a standby basis now for everything that is there, okay? So, and that's for this weekend, and that is going to be February 2nd. And then on the 16th, going to be in St. Louis, and we still have plenty of seats that are there. And then on February 23rd, I'm going to be in Sedona. Now, please don't send me in asking for, or send me money for reservations and say, can you get a scholarship? You have to wait until it's posted being open for registration. Please read the instructions, would you please, folks, on the registration page. I do not accept any registrations or any seats until I open it for registration. Because sometimes if I did that, then people would just be, sending all kinds of stuff in, wanting to get early on the list, making sure that they're going to get a seat. Because, when it comes to the scholarship seats, it's first come, first serve. And folks, I don't do that. I'm not going to play favoritism in that issue. You have to wait until it's open for registration. But on the 23rd, February, Michael Lee Hill is going to be my guest. Now, I haven't had him back on the program for a couple of years, but he will be there in person with us. And I also am going to have him on the radio program the Wednesday prior to the February 23rd program. Now, you will probably be getting the newsletter, the email newsletter on Sunday or Monday that the Sedona workshop will be open for registration. I have to wait for Saturdays to finish because I don't want to have on my website 3 workshops open all at the same time. I usually try not to do more than 2 at a time. But that's the scoop for that one, folks. Okay. Last week, we talked about basically the background and the history of this currency exchange and everything that was going on. Now, first of all, if you haven't heard already, Blanca's not going to be with us tonight. She had some family and friend issues that she basically needed to take care of. And I said, I'm fine. I can handle this. I can go into the switchboard. And I just doesn't mean when people want to call in, I don't have the opportunity to basically, screen them in advance. But that's basically the only issue that we have there. So other than that, all is well. And she's always such a great asset. Always enjoy having her with us on the program when she's around. But and most of the time she is. So I want to be careful how I say that. But she needed to take the night off tonight. So tonight's last week, again, I talked about the background and the history of where's this money coming from and why do we have this and why it is, where does it come from? Who has it? Why is it there? What is its purpose and stuff like that? Well, tonight, I'm going to get right into the program, and the program will be a little bit shorter tonight, and I'm going to go off with some of my notes here so I don't, forget how to maybe I cover the topics and the points that I want to cover. But tonight, I'm going to talk about future development. What's coming in the future, and why is this happening for us? Last week, I talked about these funds that are being released have a global purpose in all this taking place. And there's 2 parts of that. Number one is the bigger picture globally. If you start listening to the economic programs, whether it's CNBC, Fox Business News, Bloomberg Business News, they're getting more and more financial experts that are saying that we are set up for a global financial collapse. Now, there's different opinions on that. I have a tendency to think that we are. And could something possibly trigger it? Who knows? But here's the bottom line. When we had our basically our economic collapse 10 years ago, It was because the debt was so high. And back then in 2008, it was predominantly real estate debt that created the problem. Okay, I'm hearing that there's no sound coming through on blog. And folks, I don't know what to do then. I'm sorry, I just don't. I thought I had taken care of this issue. I got that there's no sound coming through on the blog. I don't know how to fix it because I did set it up. I did have it done. And I would just say, folks, if you can't hear it on the Blog Talk Radio, then I would say go on over to the Facebook on live stream because everything's fine over on Facebook. Everything is working well there. Okay. See what comes up here. Okay, hold on. Let me. Here we are. Stream. Okay. So yeah. And so everything seems to be going well there on on Facebook. I hope so. Yep, there we are. There's the program. And let me see if I can catch again, the chat, the chats there on Facebook and what the folks are saying that got sound, everything's good. I just started echoing on Facebook. I have no idea. Oh, I think I know why. Hold on. That's why. Now I think the echo should be gone because I was trying to see if I could fix something on Blog Talk and that one wasn't working. So I think your echo should be gone now. Send me some more messages now on Facebook to tell me if basically that the echo is gone. Okay. All right. Okay, yes, it's good now. All right, so I can go back to the program. The economic development the crash in 2008 was a result of an excessive amount of real estate debt that was not able to sustain itself in any type of a turn in the economy. And it was because the debt was so huge. So basically what happened is that's what created the financial collapse. Well, this time, because the interest rates have been so low for the last 10 years, the amount of debt now globally is far surpassing what happened in the real estate debt 10 years ago. This time is predominantly commercial debt and consumer debt. And the debt is so high that it's ripe for a type of a collapse because if interest rates should go up, if the economy should go through a downturn, we're probably basically headed for another financial collapse. Well, there are different opinions upon this, but a lot of folks believe that the money that is coming from the dragon families and these sources is designed to basically curtail or to soften that collapse so it's not so catastrophic for us here basically around the planet on a complete global collapse. That's part of the reason for these funds coming out. There's different opinions of when and why and how long it's going to take. But one of my primary sources says it's now at the point that the funds being released are at the discretion of the political leaders, predominantly President Trump. And don't ask me when, don't ask me why, don't ask me what his decision is, because all I know is that the people who are there, they're not talking. Because if they start talking and rumors get out and leaks get out, it creates a discord to the whole process of how this is designed to unfold. So we don't know, and I don't know anybody who knows, other than the fact that everything is telling me that it's very close. That is what is coming from the different sources that I have of the financial folks, and also through basically the sources of my funders as well. They're saying we're told it's very close, everything is looking very close, everything is following the direction. So with that, what does this mean for us in the future? How is this going to impact us? Well, I also last week talked about on the program that we're going through this massive shift here in our world. It's an energetic shift. We are in the midst of a shift of ages. We are going through what's called an era shift and change, and this is a 26,000-year cycle of an era shift and change. There are multiple different sources that have always talked about this. Ancient indigenous cultures in their prophetic histories have always talked about the 26,000-year cycle. If you want to have a good contemporary understanding of it that explains it, it's David Wilcock's latest book, Ascension Mysteries. He really gets in talking about the 26,000-year cycle and the indigenous cultures and the different prophecies that are there from all these cultures and people of faith and religious groups going back thousands and thousands of years. It's a cycle that we go through. And when we hit this 26,000-year cycle and we start into a new one, there's always this major change and shift that takes place to the energy here within our earth, and it impacts us. It's usually a shift and change in our consciousness. We go through this big leap in the sense of consciousness for us as humanity. And this is something that just doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a couple hundred years. And if you think that we haven't gone through massive changes, all you have to do is go back 140 to 160 years and look at our world. We didn't even have electricity. We didn't have anything of the modern issues that we have today. Look how rapidly we've gone through a change where just 80 to 90 years ago, we were barely just learning how to fly. And we basically went, and basically 65 to 70 years went from learning how to fly to landing on the moon. That's a massive shift and change in a very short period of time. Well, those shifts and change have predominantly been in what you would call basically the physical world. And we're now going to start shifting into what I call the intuitive world, basically what goes on inside of us. And we're going to start learning and understanding about the power of our emotions and the power of our thoughts and what that means. And again, David Wilcock describes this well in his book, but the other sources are all of my common sources talk about that we are going through a major shift in consciousness and awareness and awakening as a human race. And my sources, again, the best ones are the Wingmakers materials, the Neruda interviews, the A.R. Borden's materials, Disappearance of the Universe from Gary Renard. And then also I'm referring, again to David Wilcock's materials. They all say that because of this shift, this energetic shift that's happening to us, it's bringing a new a sense of energy that's rising within our planet and is preparing us for a major change. We're already in the midst of the change, but we don't sense it right away. But there's a lot of us that we know it. We're aware of it. We see it. Well, our galaxy has also moved into what is called the photon band, and this massive band of light energy that the Earth and the planet and our galaxy is now within, and that's what's creating a lot of this as well. Well, what happens when we get all this light energy? It wakes us up, in so many words. And so we're moving into a shift of coming from basically being a culture as a human race. It's been we've been asleep, if that's the best way to say it. We've been asleep. We've been unaware. We've been kind of in a dream state. And we're now starting to wake up to what's really going on in our world, what's really taking place. In the workshops, I always talk about the difference between the conventional world and the shadow world. And we're waking up to what's going on in the shadow world, the world behind the scenes, the private world, the quiet world that media and different information sources don't hardly acknowledge or talk about. So those are the things. And what is that doing for us? Well, when this energy shift takes place, humanity has a choice. We have a choice to wake up with it or to stay behind in that matrix world, in so many words, or to stay behind in the lower energy. And the people who do that, there's going to be a lot of conflict that's going on in their lives. Now, if you think there isn't conflict, folks, I've been around politics for 25 years. I have never seen as much drama and conflicts and arguing and debating as there is going on right now in our political world, predominantly in the United States, but it's carrying over to other places. These massive yellow vest protests that are going on in France, the massive protesting that's going on in Venezuela and other countries. What we're starting to see are these massive, massive protests that are going on all around the world. And here in the United States, we're not necessarily gathering in numbers on protesting in local spots as much as we're seeing the agitation and the disruption on the internet or in the media. There's a lot of discord that's going on in our world right now. And it's this new energy that's building to bringing that into that situation. So we have a choice. We move with this new energy and move into a greater sense of awareness and a greater sense of consciousness, or we stay behind and we're going to find ourselves in a complete disruption. And there's a reason why this money is playing into this whole shift and change, because it's designed to help us, to help bring us out of what is called hundreds, if not thousands of years of financial slavery. And as we come out of that and we begin to wake up, the money then becomes a tool to help us help other people in this waking up process. The biggest part of this is it's all a bigger plan, or I should say a bigger program, plan, a bigger purpose, if that's the appropriate term to use, that the human race is going through this 26,000 year shift, and the shift is creating these massive changes of consciousness and awareness for us. How do we then get there? What is it that we need to do? It basically means that we have to move ourselves into where we're basically higher vibratory, higher awareness, higher consciousness people. And to do that, it's extremely important to be aware of the power of your thoughts. I'm now reading this new, it's about a 220-page PDF page book by A.R. Borden called Ultimate Thought. And he and his group of scientists, for about 10 years, they did the studies how the power of human thought and consciousness affects everything in this world around us. Borden's materials, Neruda's materials, other scientific materials, the ones I've talked about in the past, talk about the fact that the world that we live in is basically a gigantic hologram. It's not a physical dominated 3D material world that we think it is. Now, we have an awareness thinking that it is, but they said at the quantum level it's not. And at the quantum level of energy, where everything develops and takes place, it's human consciousness that determines what is the outcome. I'm not done with the book, but in Borden's book, this Ultimate Thought, it's really interesting because I think it's in the 3rd chapter, he talks about the 7 stages, the 7 unums, the 7 phases that what develops in our lives from the time that something starts as an original thought in our consciousness until it moves and develops and produces what he calls the 4-dimensional world. Now, we are typically assuming of the 3-dimensional world, and then he adds the dimension of time to it, because he says the 4-dimensional world is an illusionary world. It's not a real world. It's not a physical world, but it gives us the impression that it is because our consciousness makes us and wants us to believe that it is. He says these 7 steps that it goes through, from thought to 4-dimensional perspective of what we think is reality, it's all still just holographic in its progression all the way through. And when it gets to that final stage, because of our beliefs, we believe it is real, we have the sensations that everything is real. This new world that we're going to be moving into, we're going to wake up to that. We're going to learn how to transition from a Newtonian, physical, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional world of our perception, thinking that it's real, thinking that it's all there, that everything is solid. We're going to move from that into understanding what I call the holonomic quantum-based world, where it's nothing but massive swirling energy is all that it is. Borden, in his descriptions, says, you start out there with a thought, and this thought is in the form of an energy at the quantum level, and you have all of this energy that is out there. And what consciousness does, it takes this energy and starts bringing it in together, but this happens in nanoseconds, very rapidly. It takes all this energy, brings it in together so that it forms the appearance of being solid, of being form, of being real, even to the point that it has the sensations of being 4-dimensional Newtonian based. But he says, at the quantum level, it's still just massive swirling energy. And he is saying when you learn how to reprogram your thinking, you will learn how to move into the holonomic quantum-based world and learn how to live that way. Now, it takes decades, if not lifetimes, to make this transition because we're having to unprogram the old programming that is within us to move into this new world. But we're going to start seeing more and more and more people doing that. And this new energy that's coming in is assisting us and putting us on a fast track. What does that mean? It means we're going to start seeing literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will start working in what we call paranormal giftedness. They will be able to basically have deep psychic capabilities. They will have telepathic capabilities. They will have extremely gifted ESP capabilities. We will be able to, in essence, be able to be reading each other's thoughts. Some will even come to the extent where they will be able to literally teleport their bodies, just as they did, on Star Wars. On Star Trek. And because what it does is when you learn how to think that way, reprogram your body, reprogram your consciousness, there's no limitations on what you can do other than the limitations of your thoughts, the limitations of your beliefs. But these thoughts and beliefs have to be programmed at the unconscious level, not at the conscious level. I've used this illustration, and Borden says this very, very well as well. He says the conscious mind only produces or processes about 18 to 20 data bits of information per second. But the subconscious mind is processing 60 to 80 million data bits of information per second. And we have three layers of our mind, and the best way to describe that is to illustrate it is like a computer system. You have your conscious mind, you have your subconscious mind, and then you have your unconscious mind. If you look at a computer system, the conscious mind is kind of like the screen that's in front of you. It's like, it's like your monitor or the screen that's in front of you. You have a very limited amount of information that is coming up at this time in contrast to what is available to you. The subconscious mind is kind of like a 3 to 4 terabyte hard drive. It's got this massive, massive amount of information on it that's very quickly and easily accessible by just a click of a mouse to open up programs and bring up all this information. But only a small part of those terabytes can come up to your screen and monitor at a given moment in time. Then we get into the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind can process unlimited information all the time. The unconscious mind is like the World Wide Web. We have access, and through the internet, we have access to trillions of web pages all around the world, unlimited amount of information. But we can only bring a very limited amount of that up to our screen and to our monitors at a given moment in time. And that's how we live our lives. We use our conscious minds to process what's going on around us. But this new information is going to catapult how much we can bring up to the conscious processing at a given moment, which then gives us the capability to move into being what are called these holonomic quantum-based beings. Unlimited potential. Borden, one of his books, he writes about, it's called Becoming Like God. And he basically says the best example and the prototype that showed us that he had unlimited capability of what he could do was basically the example of Jesus, of all the miracles that he was able to do, the things that he was able to do. He was able to teleport his body, walk on water, make water come from wine, heal people instantly, make stuff show up, multiply food, all kinds of things he could do because there was unlimited potential and he tapped into those energy sources. And he had already at that point, he had been reprogramming his thought system to know that he was capable of doing that. And Borden says, that's where we're going. That's what we're coming into. Now, when we come back to this money, I want to come back to phrases that James Mahu, the Wingmakers, uses. He says, as a humanity, we have two primary forms of consciousness that we live in. One is called survival-based consciousness versus expansion-based consciousness. The human race, for thousands and thousands of years, has been living in what is called survival-based consciousness. What does it take for me to survive? We live in a world where close to 4 billion people on this planet still live on less than $10 a day. That's called survival, folks. Day to day, hour to hour, week to week, month to month, it's all about getting what I need to be able to survive so I can have enough food for tomorrow. And that I'm lucky if I have something of anything of what would be common, items. If I have a car or a motor scooter or a phone or anything like that, I'm fortunate if I have any of those things. Those people live in basic survival. For those of us that live in a modern culture where we have homes and cars and internet and phones and TVs and the list goes on of all these modern things that we have in our culture, we can still be survival based because we're focusing on us. Our focus is on what do I need for me? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel powerful? What makes me feel more important? And it's a survival-based consciousness that drives a billionaire to get more billions because he has to be more powerful than those in his own class. It's a survival-based consciousness that says, I got to have more money for me so that I'm not just surviving, but I'm feeling comfortable and I'm taken care of and I don't have anything to worry about and I don't have other people who can have power and control over me. That's survival-based. Expansion-based comes to the point you understand who you are. You understand that your thoughts is creating your world. And if you're living in peace, if you're living in security, if you're living in a sense of wholeness, and you're living without fear, you're able to always be expansive. Because the basic things that are around survival, you realize this isn't a survival-based world. I have a choice. I have a choice to say, am I going to live in survival or am I going to live in expansion? The money coming forward is designed to help us to be expansion-based people, where we expand ourselves, and by in the process of expanding ourselves and moving into becoming these quantum holonomic-based beings who have unlimited potential, that we can then teach and show that to others as well and help them expand as well. That's the purpose of the money. Now, the funds, what you do with it is going to be your choice. They aren't going to micromanage you. They aren't going to dictate to you what you can or cannot do. But here's what I can say. If money comes to you and you're still survival based, all it does, the money is neutral and it brings this massive amount of new energy into your life and it's going to expand where you are. Survival based consciousness is low energy, low processing, low vibration thought forms and consciousness. And the money will only expand that, which means it's only going to expand your fears. It's only going to expand your problems. It's only going to expand all the issues you're dealing with in your life. Expansion-based consciousness is higher energy, higher vibratory, a higher sense of purpose, a higher sense of meaning consciousness. And then the money takes it and expands that. We always have a choice, and we will have a choice. And the issue is we understand and we know there's going to be both. There are some people that will be using the money for survival, and there's some people that will be using the money for expansion. But the issue is here, it gets to show the world there's a contrast. You see, because if everything was just good, you don't have anything to contrast it to about why. But when you see these people getting all of this money, and some life gets a lot worse, and others, life gets much, much better, it gives the contrast of the choice for people to move into. And that's where we're moving to. Now, so how do we then move into expansion-based? The most important thing you can do is to help heal and clear all of the old memes, all of the old thought patterns that are within you. And in the workshops, I talk about this issue of what is called separation consciousness. It's how we separate ourselves from everybody and we say, I'm different, I'm special, or I have this issue, I'm different than you, I separate myself from you, versus unity-based consciousness. The world is designed around unity. It's designed to everything where everything energetically is connected. And when we start moving into consciousness of separation that puts everything into place, it's the separation we're stripping and tearing apart this energetic connectedness, creating a disjunction in it, then that carries out into basically all of our problems. You will find in Gary Renard's books, in the Wingmakers materials, and in Dr. Neruda's interviews, they will all tell you separation consciousness is basically the root problem for humanity. Separation-based consciousness is what creates the vast majority of all of our problems. And when we learn how to move out of separation consciousness is where we begin to be in expansion, because then that's the energy that we are putting into it. And how do you undo your separation consciousness? You undo your old thought patterns. You go back and you heal all your old unfinished business. You go back in and you clean out all the old stuff. You use forgiveness to repair all the old relationship conflicts that you have. And it's not so much that you have to fix them. It's the fact is that you allow yourself to be in a position to where you're fixing you. Your focus is always on you. It's not on the others. It's on what you need to do for you to allow yourself to be in this place of peace and harmony and everything that flows with it. So, here we are tonight. Now let me take a look at where we are here with the program. And yeah, we had a problem on the air there tonight. And I basically have been going for a little bit, probably about a half hour. And I said that tonight's program wasn't going to be a very long program, and I want it because I want you to be able to stay in what is called a focused perspective of what we're doing here tonight. And I just want to know that this is where we're moving. This is where we're going. I would encourage you that to go and, again, read the Neruda interviews, read Borden's materials you can get on his Facebook page, The Writings of A.R. Borden. Read David Wilcock's newest book, Ascension Mysteries. And you can always read that book that I express over and over again, Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. These are the books that will change your life. These are the materials that will help prepare you for the coming world. These are the materials that will allow you to be at the forefront of this change that's coming place. This money is designed for us to be the pioneers, to be the ones who are leading on the forefront, to be the trailblazers, to be the ones who are leading the way into this new coming world. I'm excited about it. I'm experiencing so much of what I call divine synchronicity in my life. I'm always amazed at what I call these deep rabbit holes that I go down that I don't even look for. They just seem to find me. This started happening in my life when I started the first process of doing my own internal work. As I was doing my own internal work, shifting how I changed my thinking process, clearing out all the old stuff, it gave the way for high vibratory love energy to come in and be a part of my life, to where it's a constant part of my life. It's a frequent part of my life. It's where I am. I've come to a point in my life it's extremely rare for me to experience fear. I don't even know what fear feels like anymore. If it does come at me, I'm able to immediately identify it and immediately process it. I don't have anxiety issues. I don't have fearful issues. I don't have worry issues. I don't find myself in discord. I don't find myself arguing and fighting with people anymore. I don't find myself even as I'm browsing, the internet and things come up that I really disagree with. I just let it be. I am, for the most part of my life, able to rise above all the drama of this 4D world and just let it be and be an observer. And in that, I'm in this place of peace. But more than that, because that conflict is no longer a part of my thought process, it means high vibratory, purpose-filled issues find me. Excuse me. It's not so much that they find me, they've always been there. It's just now there's room for them to come from the subconscious mind up to the conscious world, because in my conscious mind, I've learned how to let go and rise above all the lower vibratory drama that goes on. This is who we're supposed to be. This is how we get to have the world of peace that is coming our way. This is how we get to move into a peaceful world. There's a great quote in A Course in Miracles where it says, "Seek not to change the world, but seek to change how you view the world." Because you see, how you view something is what creates your perceptions. And your perceptions is what puts out the energy that creates what you experience. Is there all kinds of drama going on out there in that world? Yes, there is. Is there all kinds of violence, anger, hatred, killing, wars going on out there in the world? Yes, there is. But anytime those come across my path throughout the day, I just let them be. I don't avoid them. I don't deny them. And I don't engage with them. I just let them be there. And then what I choose to do, I choose to see a shift in my perception. Instead of seeing someone who basically is involved in drama and creating a lot of problems, I just say, that's just where they temporarily are. But down in their unconscious mind, there's that world of peace, the world of harmony, and the world of love is already happening within them. So I get to start seeing that part of them. Because I engage in that, that's what I get to experience in my life. And then I'm taking on the issue of changing my world. And as I change my world, how I view my world, then the world around me begins to change. You want to change this world? Always change yourself first on the inside. Bring yourself to this place of peace. Bring yourself to the place of harmony. Come to the place where you don't judge people anymore, because judgment is very low vibratory energy. Let go of all judgment. There were three things that what I call were the paramount commands of Jesus that we find in the Gospels. Number one, he said, you love your neighbor as yourself. No exceptions. No, never any exceptions. Anybody who is out there is your neighbor. Anybody who's coming up in front of your world is your neighbor. You always love them as you love yourself. Always have nothing but unconditional love for them. Number two is you don't judge. Matthew 7:1 says, the judgment that you give to others is the judgment that you bring upon yourself. If you start judging people, you're only bringing very serious problems to yourself. Let it go. Just let it go. Don't make any dark, derogatory, negative, low-energy judgment toward other people. I am seeing so much deep judgment against our president. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not here to be pro or con Donald Trump. The issue is, it's not about Donald Trump. It's about me. It's about us. What are we doing? What energy are we bringing into ourselves? When you start judging, you bring very low negative energy into yourself. And then so therefore, that's what you're creating in your life. Love unconditionally. Love your neighbors. Do not judge. And the third thing is always, always, always without exception, forgive. In Matthew chapter, I believe it's chapter 17 in the Bible, it says that Peter goes up to Jesus and he says, Lord, how many times do I need to forgive my brother? 7 times? And what does Jesus come back and he say? He said, Peter, how about 70 times 7? Every single day. And it's not all of a sudden when you hit 490 times a day, that's 70 times 7, that you hit this magic number. He says, no. Forgiveness needs to be a habitual part of your life, a thought process. Because what is forgiveness? It's the shift in perception. It's the change in perception of how you're viewing that person or the circumstance around you. Unconditional love, do not judge, and always forgive. And he says, you do these 3 things, then you get to learn to live like I live. You get to be like I was. You get to be this quantum holonomic being who has unlimited potential, anything you can do around you. Because, see, those things are all high energy based issues. And when you're using those three issues, letting them be habitual parts of your lifestyle, you're always vibrating at a high energy source. This is the world we're moving into. The energy is coming with us. The energy is bringing this available for us. The question is, what do you want to do with it? If you move with it, then you move into that. These things will become a part of your life. If you resist it and don't move with it, then you're in discord and out of balance with what's happening in the world around you. And life is going to have a lot of problems. It's always our choice. I always want to say thank you to the scores and hundreds of people who come to my workshops and the ones who have been coming repeatedly. And almost every time now, I have people come up to me and say, Dave, your life is changing. You're not the same person that you was a year ago, 2 years ago. I've had people say, I've been following you now for 5 years, and I'm watching you grow. I'm watching you change. I'm watching the things that you're going through. And I say, thank you. But practically, I can say, yeah, because I'm experiencing that change in my life. It's almost like about every year to year and a half, I feel like prior to that was a different lifetime. Things that I've changed, my life is different, I'm moving into new areas, new things are coming into me, and life gets to take on this very interesting, wonderful, adventurous perspective. I had another person come up and share with me, he says, as I've been following you and all these adventures that you go through and everything that seems to be finding you, and yet there's still a lot of drama on the outside that goes on around you because, yes, you've had 2 assassination attempts on your life, and yes, you've got people that viciously attack you. I just let that stuff be, and it's just, I don't even hardly engage in it. But this individual said, your life, it's kind of like you're living a Tom Clancy novel without the shoot 'em up bang bang. And I thought, yeah, I guess so. I am getting to live this very adventurous, exciting life of the stuff that's finding me that most people can just barely dream about. I come back and says, being in touch with the dragon families who have this massive amount of money that nobody in the world can hardly even think about. Being acquainted with the workings of A.R. Borden, who was the brightest and smartest man in the world that he was told by others, and how he was so far ahead and being able to understand his materials, getting into that. And my newest project is getting to be involved in this new Matrix 4 movie. And I never thought I was going to be involved in Hollywood, but if things are going as they are now, I've already been told, it says, you will have the title of executive producer. Now, there's more than one executive producer. When you read scripts, read the credits at the end of the movie. But you'll be able to basically have the title of one of the executive producers of a major Hollywood movie. I thought, huh? Wow, But this stuff just finds me. And what's interesting is, as I'm really becoming, familiar with Sophia Stewart and her book Matrix 4, and you look at the themes that are there, it's another part of the bigger picture. You're finding Neruda's materials, Borden's materials, the Wingmaker's materials, Gary Renard's materials, and the Matrix 4 movie. They're all paralleling each other and saying, this is the world we're coming into. And in the words of the Matrix 4, it says, you want to continue living in this matrix illusionary, low-dimensional world, or do you want to rise above it? And the others are saying, this is how you rise above the matrix world. So with that, folks, I've been going for about 45 minutes tonight. I think I'm ready to kind of call it an evening. I'm sorry that Blog Talk Radio went down, so I won't be able to take any calls in tonight. But I'm sure that you'll enjoy the program tonight. I don't know why the camera fades in and out like that, but I'm doing fine. But with that, folks, I just want to say thank you. Because Blog Talk Radio is not working, I don't have the jingle tonight. I just want to say thank you very much, and we'll be back next week. So have an absolutely wonderful week.